Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Charlotte Pridmore and I'm the founder of the PhD process, which stands for Positive Human Design, which is a PhD in your own empowerment. I know, I love it too. So I want to talk on this first video. This is my first YouTube video since I've been doing this work. And I want to talk about what PhD is, what about discovering your authentic self, overcoming self-sabotage, managing self-sabotage, and also aligning your actions in your business and your life with your purpose. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, this is my first video. I spent the whole day yesterday trying to make it perfect. I'd done 26 takes of my opening bit and I was going to do it all in sections and edit it all together. And it just wasn't lighting me up. And I was just thinking, what really matters is me, and the way that I like to do things is just talking about what I'm passionate about. So it's going to be unedited for now. And I'm just going to trust that I'm going to get better at it. So PhD, Positive Human Design, is a mixture between positive intelligence and human design. And the reason that I brought it together is because I just ended up by accident studying those two things at the same time. So I'm a certified human design reader and I'm a mental fitness coach. And I'd done loads of previous modalities, but these two really, really landed. And the reason why they landed is because in my business and in my life and in my clients' lives and in my clients' businesses, I just always knew there was this beautiful connection between mind and body, and this mind-body coherence, as Joe Dispenza would call it. And what I mean by that is that we have this internal pull. And so for me as a generator, that is what lights me up. It didn't light me up to do this video in loads of sections and it'd be perfect and edit it all together. It ruined my flow. The way I like to do things is I like to give myself a subject and then talk. With some structure, obviously, although it didn't used to have structure. So the point is that I always felt this internal pull. So depending on your energy type in your human design, or depending on just how connected you are with your body, you'll feel pulled towards things. And one of my foundational beliefs is that your desires are meant for you. Why would you have them if they weren't meant to be part of your life, right? So if that is a fundamental core belief that I've adopted and that really works for me, I trust that the things that light me up and the things that I desire are meant for me. The problem then incurred this would get in the way, all the language and all the self-talk that would say you can't be, do, or have that. And so what happened was I'd been introduced to human design about 5 years ago. It didn't make any sense to me. I wasn't particularly into astrology. It just wasn't really my thing. However, something in me kept pulling me back to it. So I ended up doing a few courses on it. And then last year I ended up deciding I did a 7-month mastermind to get to know my own design. And then after that, I decided to certify in it so I could help other people with that. And then with the positive intelligence piece, I was introduced to it by a client. They said, I think this would be right up your street. And the positive intelligence piece is researched. It's Stanford research. It was invented by a guy called Shazad Shemaine. And it's also about identifying the saboteurs in our brain. So our mind's job is to keep us safe and to conserve energy. And they identified in the research, and this research was over 500,000 people over 50 different countries, a pattern of 10 different voices that we have in our head. And there are going to be more videos on that to come. But for now, it's just understanding that there are these 10 voices, the top one being the judge, and then you have your accomplice saboteurs. Now, I have a link to get your test done so you can know what your saboteurs are. It'll be in the comments below. There's also a link to get your human design chart read. And so what I recognize is that as I started to go through the program myself, and then I decided to become a mental fitness coach so I could use that tool with my clients, because the two things here for me were, what is my energy and my body leading me to, and how does my mind get in the way of it? And when I looked at everybody I was working with, and when I looked at my own journey and my own story, it was just well, this is it. This is the tools and the support and understanding and awareness comes from, how do I fully understand what's going on in my head, and how do I learn to understand and connect to my body's wisdom and my body's desire. So my body is the person who's making the decisions, and I question what the mind says that gets in the way. So this is all really about discovering your authentic self. So that authentic self means, what am I, who am I designed to be in the world? Who am I? What are my desires? What lights me up? What do I feel into? Because I use the analogy of, like, say a woman's walking down the street and she walks past a community centre and there's a salsa class poster, and her internal voice goes, oh, I'd love to do that. And then her mind goes, yeah, but you can't do that because you won't be able to do it and you'll look stupid and nobody will go with you and blah, 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 blah. And then we don't do it. And our lives are filled with those moments. And so we're kept in this very, very safe lane that doesn't keep us happy, and it doesn't keep us fulfilled, and it doesn't enrich our lives, and we're not living our life to the fullest because we have so much conditioning and programming keeping us in a very, very safe space. And so human design is how to learn to drop into your body and really connect with your strengths, the things where your conditioning lies, like what actually lights you up, how you're supposed to use your energy in the day. And then the positive intelligence really, really deals with, how do I master this so I can allow this to happen? And so with positive human design, you're seeing how your mind works. It gives you an actual result of how much your mind is supporting you compared to sabotaging you, and how much, what percentage of the time that your brain's for you. And then you've also got the human design side, which is, what are my natural gifts? What do people get from just being around me? So when you see those two things brought together, and what happened was, as I was studying them both at the same time, I started to recognize that our conditioning within our human design, so maybe in our undefined centers or the conditioning of our type, how there was a correlation between the saboteurs and where they showed up. So it became quite obvious to me that in most places where our conditioning lied in our human design, that was the playground of our saboteurs. So giving people the ability and the awareness to be able to know themselves in a very, very real way. So it's understanding how your mind's working unconsciously and how your body is responding to the world around you. So it really is, for me, helping people to, and this started with myself, like helping people to go, okay, this is how I think. Is this serving me? No, it isn't. How do I actually change my mind? And that's what the positive intelligence piece of my work does. How do I actually learn to quieten down those voices and be able to drop into my body and make it an aligned decision? And in positive intelligence, they're called the sage perspective. How do I amplify my ability to look through the sage perspective, which is that 99% of situations that I get into, there is a gift and opportunity in them. And then how do I use my energy in conjunction with that to really make really beautifully aligned decisions that make sense to me, not what anybody else is doing, not what everybody's telling you to do, not the, this is particularly relevant in business, because the business then becomes, oh, well, it's working this way for this person, and this person's really successful doing it this way, so I'll go do it that way. But what if that way isn't right for you? What if it, like, for example, I could watch 1 million YouTube videos of how to make great YouTube videos, and they probably would, tell me that it's got to have this and this and this and this and all these points, and yeah, I could do it that way, but I've got to do it in a way that feels good to me. And me talking about what I'm passionate about, unedited, is what feels good to me, because it's how I get into my flow. And therefore, if I'm in my flow, you receive the information I'm sharing with you a hell of a lot better than if I've chopped it all up. I believe that. And maybe I'm wrong, but we'll see. So we've talked about what positive intelligence is, or positive human design is. We've talked about discovering your authentic self and what that means and why it's important. And then the next thing we'll talk about is overcoming that self-sabotage. And the one thing that really sticks out to me to say here is, when you're hearing the voices, or you're hearing that language in your head that says you can't do this, you can't be this, you can't have this, who's listening to the voice? Like, who's listening? You are listening. And so if you're hearing it It has to be separate from you. And I think people that are really, really disconnected and don't have this kind of awareness, when they hear that voice, they think it's them. They think it's the voice of reason. They think it's their mind, serving them. And if it's opposite to or contradicts what your body's being pulled to, then surely the what makes sense to me and what's worked for me, and here's the real thing. This isn't just all conceptual and philosophical. This is every time I have ignored a feeling, and I would ask you to think about that. When you've had a gut feeling, or you've been pulled in one direction, and yet you've decided to go down the other path because it seemed more logical, or it's what everybody else was telling you to do, or you felt judged if you'd have gone down that road. How many times have you ignored that and you've come a cropper? Meaning it's not worked out how you thought it would be, meaning you didn't feel as much joy doing it as you thought you would, or you were disappointed because you wish you'd have gone that way, but you didn't have, the guts. So it really is, really learning to, how do I recognize what those voices are? How do I understand where they come from, what their original survival function are? Because in positive intelligence, it looks at what was the original survival function of this saboteur, because they're all there to keep you safe. And here's the amazing thing. When you really get to know these, you understand that your biggest saboteurs are also your biggest strength. So in the research, it shows that every single saboteur is your biggest strength. It's just when it's overused and abused that it starts to turn into a saboteur. So suddenly it doesn't become about, oh, I'm so this, I'm so judgmental, I'm so, so my top 3, for example, are judge, because everyone's is judge the first. I have the pleaser, avoider, and hyperachiever. They're my top 3. So what are the amazing things about those? Like, for example, people pleaser gets a really bad rap, right? But being a people pleaser just means you're a really great person. It means that you care about other people. It means that you want to help. Like, that's good. That's a good thing. And people pleasers get a bad rap. But it's when it's overused, it's when you start to do things for the people at the detriment to your own life. It's when you do things for the people to be liked, to be validated, to fit in. So much so that you're coming away from who you really are and what you really want. So it's really interesting and valuable to understand, okay, how am I using this to my advantage, and how is this empowering me? Because this is all about empowerment. This is about, how do I look at myself as a whole being and take all the best bits, and then recognize the conditioning, recognize the quote unquote negative thoughts, and how do I turn them into something that serves me and my life and my business and makes me happier and more fulfilled, because that's essentially what we're talking about. And then by doing that, we learn to manage it. And that's really mastering your brain and being, okay, I hear you, thank you for your input, but I'm going to go do this anyway because I trust this feeling that I have. And the thing is that most of us are so conditioned to be so in our head and not in our body. And so really this whole process, everything I'm going to be talking about on this channel, we're going to be going deep into positive intelligence. We're going to go deep into human design. We're going to be bringing those two things together. We're going to be talking about success, fulfillment, happiness, finance, money. Money is one of my favorite things to talk about. We're going to be talking about business and life and all the things that come under you being your most authentic self and you being the most fulfilled you can possibly be. And then also what I want to talk about is the action piece. Because here's what I think. I think that, especially in business, especially in the online space when it comes to business, is that we have been missing the masculine strategy behind actually what it means to build a business. And we have we've lent into the spiritual part of it, which is brilliant. And, in human design, we are definitely coming into that more, understanding the spiritual side of life and business in a much deeper way, on a much broader way, broader scale. But what I recognized in my own business, and this is, really the honest truth, is that what was lacking was the structure and the strategy that really made my business a working business. And that has become, been a learning over the last 6 years, and something that I have really been focusing on in this last year or so. And that can feel really uncomfortable again. It almost feels like starting again, because there was a lot of, a lot of vision and a lot of manifestation talk and a lot of stuff that really is amazing and definitely a tool to use. But I recognize that the actual nuts and bolts, the working pieces of the business they weren't holding they weren't holding me enough. And that's not a not enough statement. That's just the facts. Is business, and there are working pieces to that. And so we're going to be talking about aligned action, because one of my fundamental philosophies in my business is one foot on the ground and one foot in the universe. And what that means is that you've got to have a connection to something bigger than you. You've got to have some faith, because to be honest, I think, if I'd have known what this was going to be like before I got into it, I probably wouldn't have done it. So there has to be an element. I always say this, I read it somewhere once and I can't remember who it was, so I can't quote them, but it was like, there's got to be an element of delusion. There's got to be this element of belief in the belief in that vision that's almost to the point of like, I will keep going because it is going to happen. You have to have that ability to believe in that. You've got to have the ability to believe that there is something bigger than you guiding you, and whether you call that God, universe, whatever. I think it's really important in business that it keeps you going, right? But there's also got to be this one foot on the ground, like, because we can't just sit on our backsides and go, okay, I'm going to manifest this and it's just going to fall out of the sky. It is a co-creation. It is a seeing the vision and then, okay, what's my part? How do I move? You give me that vision, give me that pull, like thinking about human design, give me those nudges, give me that, that light up feeling, give me the things that I'm drawn to, and give me the ability to trust that I'm drawn to it for a reason, but then give me the ability and let's actually make steps and move in that direction. Because we are living in a human experience, we are having a human experience, we have to do our part. And so we're going to be talking about how do we take that pull and how do we make that happen? How do we actually walk in the direction of that desire? How important is it to connect to desire? We're talking about desire a lot. So that's it. So that's my first video, completely unedited, just exactly what I wanted to say. And if you're on my email list, you'll be receiving this video in your email. So if you're not in my email list, if you click the link to get your saboteur test done, or your free human design chart, then you'll be on the list and you will get this video sent to you on a Friday. So I hope that that's resonated. I'm really excited. I'm glad that you're here. If anything I ever say resonates with you, then please hit the subscribe button. Share the video with somebody who you think might want to hear it. But this is how it's going to be. It's just going to be subject, me chatting, and then we'll see how it goes, and I'm sure I'll get better. But I'm here to be imperfect, and I'm here to show you that things don't have to be perfect. You can just go and do what's on your heart and what you feel the desire to do, and you just get to go and do it. Okay, so thanks for listening. I will see you on the next video. Take care.